Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is showing.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good?
Ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our last episode, our small talk segment where we talked all about discipline. Today, we're going to do a Scratching the Surface episode on settling and why you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, you definitely should not settle. Quick friendly reminder here, though. First, Kevin's been talking to a lot of you guys on the phone. He's learning a lot about you guys. We are both learning a lot about you guys, and you guys are learning a lot about yourselves. So the more we understand you, the more we can help you, and we want to keep that rolling. So make sure you DM Kevin if you have anything you're going through that you want help with.
Second friendly reminder, head over to thehyperconsciouspodcast.com if you want behind-the-scenes stuff, you want our next-level programs, the courses that we talk about when the cameras aren't rolling, and other good stuff.
The Hyperconscious Morning Minutes as well.
All right. So we're going to talk about settling and why you shouldn't do it. Alan and I were talking today, and I said, what do you think about doing an episode about settling? And when it comes to settling, I want to talk about relationships. I want to talk about your physical body. I want to talk about where you live, your job, your finances, all of that. Because there's this fine line for me where we were just talking about in the preamble that, like, at one point I thought a good relationship where you weren't fighting a lot was enough.
Yeah.
There really was never a push for more, right? So if I'm being honest, if I'm being transparent, which I pride myself in, I've settled. I've settled a lot when it comes to relationships. And that's not a knock on the other person because I never communicated what I thought I was settling. Like, maybe the communication wasn't there and I never communicated it.
Well, you said to me that you didn't know there was another option.
I didn't.
You kind of like, I always use the analogy, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I remember back in, so I think it was like 2008 or 2009.
You
remember the, I know, right? You remember the website called Stumble Upon? It was like a really big deal for a while.
I don't know.
And so for the listeners out there, Stumble Upon was basically this website where everyone had a webcam and you would just like kind of, it would auto scroll through other people's webcams and you would just meet people, random people. And there was really messed up stuff on there and there was funny stuff. Some people were doing skits and all this stuff. And so it was called Stumble Upon and it was really popular and fun back in college. But I had this moment at the gym earlier today and I was like, I think that's kind of how a lot of people live their lives. Whatever they stumble upon, they kind of sometimes settle with.
I think this is going to be, if you're listening to this, be honest with yourself. Like, this is the time to be honest with yourself. If you're listening to this alone, there's no shame in you asking yourself these questions. There's no shame in admitting where you have settled, where you are settling now. Like, this is all in an attempt and a hope that it's not going to happen in the future. And if you're listening to Alan and I, if you've listened to Alan and I, you know we're all about designing a life that you're going to be fulfilled in, and you're going to be happy in, and you're going to be joyous in, and you're going to be excited to get up every day and do, and you're going to be excited for the next year, and the next 5 years, and the next 10 years. And the reason I am so fired up about this is because if you're settling and you're unhappy, I know exactly how you feel. I was there, and I didn't even realize I was settling because I didn't know there was another option.
So once you knew there was another option, there was two choices,
Yes.
right? It was settle for less
Yeah.
or chase more.
Yeah.
So should we go into what settling means to you, and then we'll bring it to what it means to
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
and hopefully that'll define it.
Settling, to me, it's kind of like, I'm going to take the safe route because it's here in front of me. It's not what I want, but it's what I have right now, and it's quote unquote good enough. It's just like, I talked about this a while ago. I don't know what episode it was, but we were talking about relationships.
Yeah.
And I admitted wholeheartedly, like, I was in a relationship, a situationship, whatever you want to call it, with somebody, and they cared far more about me than I did them. In that moment, I realized that if I was just to say, all right, you know what, I'm gonna stay here, I would have been settling because I wasn't crazy about that person. Now, if you're listening, it might sound like, oh, you're kind of an asshole. That's not what this is about. If I stayed with that person would not have been fulfilled because it wouldn't have been, they didn't deserve, the 50% I was in. That's not fair to them.
Yeah, they deserve someone who
Is all in.
And
I think that's the other side of this coin that a lot of people don't talk about. If you're settling in a relationship, you're doing yourself and your partner a disservice.
Yeah, they deserve someone who's fully invested.
You're probably doing yourself and your place of employment a disservice if you're not putting in your maximum amount of effort.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing.
Wow.
I think a lot of people are worried that I don't want to leave this person because I'll look like an asshole. But what if you do stay with that person and 5 years down the road you have to look them in the eyes and say, you know what? I knew 5 years ago that I didn't think this was for me, and now I really know, like, now that I've worked on my personal development, now that I believe in myself more, now that I know I'm capable of attracting somebody who blows me out of the water, I'm not happy anymore. That's one of my biggest fears.
Do you think that it's a good barometer of whether or not you're settling based on how hard you're working at something? So, for example, when I was at a job that I didn't go all in on, that I didn't care about fully, that I was probably settling for because I wanted the money or needed to get out of debt or whatever, I feel like I didn't give 110%. Whereas with this podcast, every day, and trust me, I'm not perfect. We fail forward. We're always trying to improve every single day. And it's like, but I know that I'm giving my all. Like, if I had any more to give, I would give it, without burning down completely and being deaded. So I think that's a good barometer of whether or not you're settling. Like, how all in are you on your relationship? How all in are you at your job and your passions? And so one thing that I want to make clear, and I think Kevin can talk about this a little bit as well, you don't have to have these insane ambitions of, like, making $1 billion or being a millionaire or changing the world, or, like, obviously we're shooting very, very high in our personal ambitions, and we have our reasons for that. But not settling could be anything as simple as, I know I really want, a Lexus, and I'm just driving this Toyota because I'm this is good enough. Whereas the not settling version of you would find a way to make more money, which, by the way, would force you to get more skills and fear chase more and grow more and learn finances and track your numbers. And the tools that you will create by not settling are then tools you can bring to your children, to your friends, maybe teach a course on finance. I don't know what it is, but what I do know is that not settling is going to be the harder road that will force you to learn more and grow more and become more. And to me, that's the real benefit of not settling.
I would say that if you're not... So people listening might say, like, well, I think I'm working towards what I want. Like, am I settling? I think if you're putting conscious effort into getting what you want, you're not settling.
Exactly.
A good so when I go back to this relationship that I was talking about, you and I have talked about this a lot.
Oh, yeah.
A lot. I literally did not have to be anything other than what I was. I did not have to grow. Now, because of that, I didn't put in that much effort, right? I didn't.
You didn't have to.
Because I didn't have to. Yep. I didn't feel that I had to. And I also knew I didn't really expect it to last that long. That wasn't the end all be all for me. So in this scenario, I was not putting in any effort because I didn't need to. And I didn't put in any effort because I also didn't see this lasting. That's the definition of settling to me.
Yeah.
You know, if you're at a job where it's like, well, I just show up and punch the clock and like, you know, it's good enough. It's a paycheck. Do you have something you'd rather do?
And are you consciously working toward it?
Yes.
Even if it's small steps. Even
Anything.
if it's just like staying here and doing a kick-ass job at this job to eventually get
Yeah.
another one, to
Yeah.
eventually get another one, to eventually do my dream.
Settling is
Settling
when you
is
know.
basically when you're not doing anything toward the thing you really want and you're accepting what is.
Yeah, and you know it's an option.
So whenever you are in, and we've talked about this before with different friends that we've had, when you're in emotional pain, when something bad happens, like let's say you go to a job interview and it doesn't go well, and that was your dream job. That's the thing you really wanted that you weren't settling for, but you were chasing, you were stretching for, right? But you didn't get it. You're in pain. And by the way, this is a lot of the reason why people settle, because when you don't settle, you're forced outside your comfort zone to go for something you really want. You get really excited, and when it doesn't go well, it hurts extra because you really cared. So now you're in that emotional pain. There's two things you can do. You can tell yourself a story that job just wasn't for me or it wasn't meant to be, or you can retool and try to get something even better or something similar. One of them, I believe, is settling on where you are. Going out on a limb, getting knocked down, and then saying it wasn't meant to be, and then just staying where you are. Not settling is going out on a limb, having that branch break, falling on the ground, breaking your arm, recovering, and then climbing that damn tree again, or another, proverbial tree.
I had a moment where you were talking about that, like a job interview. And if you guys were listening, this was like a year ago. That's crazy. It's so crazy to say that.
Let's
like a year
go.
ago. Do you remember when I had a job interview at my job?
Oh, yeah.
So for the listeners who might not have been around back then, or if you want to know like what my life looked like a year ago, you should go back and listen. But just a quick little because it does make sense to this, I promise. So I was traveling up and down the East Coast. I was spending every week in New Jersey. Every Sunday night I would drive out and I would miss every week. It was miserable. I hated it. I was not a fan. An administrative job opened up in the office, and it was literally a $40,000 pay cut.
Yep.
And I applied to the job, and I was like, yo, give this job to me. I need it.
And that was the interview. Yo, give this job to me.
They kind of knew. Because I told them, I said, like, look, this is kind of it. Like, if I don't get this job, I'm going to have to reevaluate some things. Like, I can't do this anymore.
I
right?
remember that. It was about a year ago.
It was about a year ago, right?
Interesting.
Guys, the best thing ever is that I didn't get that job, because I would have settled there and I would have been comfortable and I wouldn't have been chasing my dreams right now. What actually happened is I ended up going all the way to hell no, being at the edge of the bed, wanting to kill myself, and realizing, like, look, I don't care. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to take a huge risk. And here we are today. If I got that job in the office and settled on that, the Hyperconscious podcast would not be a thing. Like, that's why I'm so passionate when it comes to settling, because I see so many people who settle.
Right.
It's like, how many couples do you know that aren't happy?
Oh, yeah.
And if you're listening, how many couples do you know that aren't happy? How many of your friends are not happy? Are you not happy when your alarm clock goes off? I don't know what the job of your dreams is, and maybe you don't yet either. But the first step is admitting, like, I can do better than this. I want to do better than this. It's the first step.
It's so many different things. So I think once you start to realize that climbing is fun, you start to not want to settle. And also, you can start small. So, for example, asking yourself the tough questions. Where have I settled in my life? Where have I stopped short? I'll be honest with the listeners right now. I'll get real vulnerable. I have regrets. I'm not one of those people who says, well, no regrets. I ended up, I get that what I did brought me here, and I am grateful for where I am now. And if you're happy with where you are, you'll not only be okay with where you've been, you'll be thankful for it. So I am, okay? But I also don't know if I believe in no regrets. In other words, the things that we will regret most later in life are going to be the things we never went for. You're not going to regret trying and failing. You're going to regret not trying. especially when it's something you really want. So, where in your life have you settled for less when you should have gone for more? I had people tell me that I couldn't get into MIT and I had straight A's in high school. I think I had 1 B+ in an honors English class, and then I never took honors English again because I settled. I didn't know that was a bad idea. But seriously, I could have got into MIT. I ended up going to WPI, and that ended up working great. Obviously, I'm happy with where I am. But I listened to somebody who told me I couldn't get into MIT, which was, by the way, horse shit. I might have gotten in if I at least applied. I regret not applying. And I'm happy with where I am, so it's not the regret of, I wish it was different. It's more of, okay, how do I take that regret and make sure I don't settle in the future for people telling me you can't do this? How many people told you couldn't podcast?
Everybody.
Right. So what if you just said, okay, well, I guess I can't podcast then? You would have settled.
Yeah.
Now, to get back to what Kevin was saying, had he gotten that job, most people are in what Tony Robbins refers to as no man's land. They're unhappy, but not unhappy enough to do anything about it. That's what these tough questions are going to do. If Kevin had gotten that job at the desk job, he would have been more comfortable, and therefore maybe not, he wouldn't have been kicked into so far on the unhappy that he went all in on the podcast. So for you out there right now, where have you settled? Ask yourself the tough question and really sit down with those questions and say, okay, where am I settling in my life? Where have I settled in my life? Where am I no longer going to tolerate settling? Because if you have genuine desire in your heart for something more, that is a good thing. I believe that's the ambition that's going to force you to become more and give more.
And also, like we talked about it on the last episode. Discipline.
Right.
I think settling and discipline go not hand in hand, but they're very closely related. If you're the dude or the girl who every season when beach season comes around, you strap a towel around your waist because you're insecure because you're like, well, this is how I am. Like, this is the body I have. It is the body you have, but what have you done to change that? You don't have to there's so many ways to make a change, and if you settle and especially if you allow that to become part of your identity, like, this is just who I am. Like, I'm the girl who I date the assholes. Like, that's just kind of, I don't know. I've always been attracted to them. Like, no, maybe you've been attracted to him, but like, is it worked?
Yeah.
I think,
is that what you really want?
Is that what you really want?
Do you regret it?
What do you really want?
Yeah.
And then what are you accepting?
So that girl that you were just talking about, proverbial girl
on the beach,
who basically had dated what you referred to as assholes, like a really terrible boyfriend. Okay, now there's two versions of that girl, version A and version B. Version A says, this is just how I am, and just tells that story to herself and just keeps doing the same thing, repeating the same mistake in and out of bad relationships with, those types of guys, because that's just what she's attracted to, right? That's the story she's telling herself. Now, that girl, version B, if she were really to sit there and ask herself the question, like, do I regret doing those things? Do I regret dating a guy like that? And she were really to be honest with herself, she would change and she would go for a nice guy. And that could change her whole life.
Yeah.
That one moment of owning the regret. Like, do I regret my last relationship? Did I make mistakes? As soon as you own a mistake, you now have the power to fix it. I am so big on owning up to your own mistakes, not because I want you to beat yourself up, but because it's the only thing that's going to get you empowered.
Imagine analogy time. Like, let's just pull this one out and see if it lands.
That's a great rep.
So, settling, it can be hard to explain. Because if you've never done it, it might sound insane. You might say, like, why would anybody ever do that? People do it all the time, and a lot of people don't even know they're doing it. So imagine this. I say, all right, Alan, you can have any island in the world. What kind of island do you want? You say, I want an island with lush vegetation. It's got beautiful animals on it. It's got waterfalls and hot springs and cliffs where I can look over the ocean. And I say, okay, cool. Hit the ocean and start swimming. You'll know when you get there. You land on an island. It's like a desert island.
Right.
It's the Sahara. Nothing. There's no water. There's no trees.
Right.
120 degrees. The sun's beating down all the time. And you look and you see, like, I see another island, but I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if that's the one. What if that's not the one? And you stay on that island. You settled on that island.
Yeah. Even though it sucks.
Even though it sucks. Because it's better than not knowing what else is out there.
Exactly. So the only scary part about that is, what if the thing that you think... I just want to bring this to the listeners.
Yeah.
So be careful about what you... Be more aware of what you really want and what that will really take. Because what if that island that I originally wanted
Oh yeah.
was going to come with some things I didn't want? Like, what if there was wild boars on it that I didn't know about?
Yeah.
So make sure you know your awareness. And by the way, I mean, I'll be honest, like you and I are going to do a course on vision board, and we're going to put it on the website. And when we do that, I'm going to take my old vision board that has all these things on it that are no longer relevant and create my new vision board. Guys, some of the things that I went for, quote unquote, or have been going for, I've grown since then. I've evolved. My Y power is different. I'm 30 now. I'm different. So it's going to evolve as you go. But if you want something, and you know that you want something, you can either tell yourself a story that you don't deserve it, or that you don't want to work for it, or that it's not worth it, or you can go for it. And the 3 beliefs that you need to really go for it is, number 1, I will achieve it. Number 2, it will be worth it when I do achieve it. And 3, I'm basically not going to quit unless I decide otherwise. You may decide later that you don't want it.
Yeah.
And then you're not settling.
Yeah.
You just don't want it.
That's
right?
a great point. It's great. I'm glad you brought that, because my analogies sometimes can go off the rails.
No,
a
it was a
bit.
great analogy.
But it's kind of like when you're 18 years old. If somebody offers you a job making $10 an hour, you're ecstatic. Like, hell yeah, I'll
Right.
take that.
Hell
right?
yeah.
But if you're 25 years old and you have all the credentials, you have the credentials to be making $100,000 a year, and the only reason you're at a job where you're making $10 an hour again, and the only reason you're not making more money. And money is something you desire. So in this analogy, you
something
want the
you
money.
want more money.
It's
Yep.
connected to a better future.
Yep.
You're just not
Take care
willing
of your
to.
family,
You're not
whatever.
willing to put in the work.
Yep.
That's it. You're not willing to go interview. You're not willing to
Apply.
whatever it is.
The courage isn't there.
Because so in that case,
Yep. You're settling.
although you're settling.
Yep.
Right, you're settling for something that once would have driven you crazy. Would have been great. Everything in this life is a sliding scale. Every time you experience something, every time you learn a new lesson, everything switches a little bit. So I think that's a great way to put it. Oh.
And
Is
there's-
that why you were smiling? You saw it was going to go off?
I did see that it was going to go off. Normally, you're the one who sees.
I was going on a rant there.
No, it's a good thing. It's
How
a
do I
good thing.
turn this thing off?
I believe genuine desire in the heart is there for a reason, whether it's a person, place, or thing. Maybe you have someone out there right now that you are in love with, that you want to be with. Here's an example. Most of us have fallen in love. If there's someone out there that you want to be with, and you know you want to be with them, and they don't know that, and you haven't had the courage to tell them, and you're with someone else instead,
Interesting.
you are settling.
Interesting.
And that is a perfect analogy that, and by the way, we've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
I've been there. Kevin's been there. It's scary when you give a shit. It's scary when you really want something, because it hurts harder when you mess it all up.
Do you want me to do my poem and you can do your reading?
Yeah, let's do it.
I have to admit, I have to do an admission here. I do love somebody. It is the listeners. I love you guys so very much.
Oh, yeah.
And we appreciate the hell out of you. So I wrote a little poem. It's not quite a what's the 3-line poem?
A haiku.
It's not a haiku. It's got four lines.
I'm really not sure if it's haiku,
Right.
but
Create a life, don't land on one. Ask those questions and answer some. Design a life, hop on and pedal, and no matter what, you should never settle.
I
I
love
haven't
it.
been doing the poems. I'm sorry, guys. I'm the worst.
I think I want to try to
Oh, boy.
recite something instead of reading this.
Do you want to know what happened
It's
last
the
time you
Steve
did this?
Jobs thing.
Okay.
I think I can do it.
Okay. Confidence.
I have to figure out how to start it. Hold on.
Yeah,
Give
no
me 2
worries.
seconds. Okay.
Do you want me to hold space?
Hold space for
Guys, I'm unbelievably proud of you. We have so many success stories.
ready.
Okay.
a second. Sorry to interrupt, but I don't want to lose it.
Still love you guys.
Growing up, we were told that the world is the way that it is, and that your life is to live inside the world and to get a job and maybe start a family and have some money. But life can be a lot broader than that when you realize one simple thing, and that is that everything around us that we call life was made up by people that are no smarter than you. Steve Jobs.
I love it.
Do not settle for anything less than you can do or be or have or give in this world
And want.
and want. as well, and love as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, are we on time? Wow, we're only 3 minutes over. It's a great day.
It's right.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. This was definitely a very personal one for me because I have been a victim of settling in the past, and I look back on it, and like Alan said, it's something that I regret. I'm ashamed of it, and I am glad it happened to me so that I can use my experiences and my lessons and my pain to help you guys hopefully avoid it or get out of some that you're experiencing. So I truly hope you enjoyed this episode. We definitely enjoyed recording.
Yeah, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed our latest episode of Scratching the Surface, where we talk about settling and why you shouldn't do it. Up next, we have a very special episode for you featuring Mr. Kevin Armentrout. He is a former Marine and combat veteran. He is the author of Relentless State of Mind, and he is a professional speaker. He's actually shared the stage with Mr. Tony Robbins.
Yes, this episode was awesome with Kevin. One of my favorites. No nonsense, no fluff. Very much how to be relentless in your own life in the pursuit of what you want.
If you have not subscribed to our podcast on iTunes, do so. We are now doing 3 episodes a week, and we do not want you to miss it.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast.
Going hyperconscious will absolutely change your life because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyperconscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends because the more people that go hyperconscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyperconscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.